Hey everyone, here we are at CC Cycle 3, Week 17, and today we are learning the area of a square for math. So we have here a handy dandy square, and we want to remember that the distinguishing thing about a square is that the sides are all the same length. And so our formula is the area of a square equals the length of its sides squared. And that means we're multiplying the length of its side by itself, right? So it's the area of a square equals the length of its sides squared. Okay, so area equals the length of its sides squared. And for class, we just passed this square around, and as each student got it, then we got to chant that tune, which is a repeat or a continuation of the tune that we started for area measurements last week. This week is the second part of that. And the tune, if you're wondering and hadn't seen last week's, it's 99 bottles. So this phase of it is the area of a square equals the length of its side squared. Last week was the area of a rectangle equals length times width. Today, the area of a square equals the length of its side squared. Okay. For English, we have sentence parts, and this week we're learning subject. So we clapped to the whole definition. So the subject is that part of a sentence about which something is being said. And so to remember this, we clap. So the subject is that part of a sentence about which something is being said. The subject is that part of a sentence about which something is being said. We did that several times together as a class, just clapping to the chant. For history, we had fun this week, and we put on a parade for all the parents, outlining our history statement, which is, tell me about the 19th Amendment. Okay, so Elizabeth Cady Stanton and Susan B. Anthony led the women's suffrage movement in the United States, resulting in the 19th Amendment in 1920, which granted women the right to vote. And so we held up each person in class had a part of this parade to hold up, and I'm just putting it back in order because we didn't get to put it back in order from class, so I want to show it to you in order so that it makes the most sense. So we had, somebody was holding the card for Elizabeth Cady Stanton, and then Susan B. Anthony. So Elizabeth Cady Stanton and Susan B. Anthony led the women's suffrage movement. So for that, they all had the same color, and they would lift their papers up during that part of the song. So led the women's suffrage movement. Okay, and that's how that looked. Led the women's suffrage movement in the United States, right? Resulting in the 19th Amendment in 1920, which granted women the right to vote. And that is all of our signs that we did for our parade for history. Hopefully that's helpful. For Latin, we did John chapter 1, verse 4. And it says, in ipso vita erat, et vita erat lux hominum. And we sang this to King Things tune, just as we have been for the rest of this year. So it's in him was life, and the life was the light of men. Okay, and in Latin it's in ipso vita erat, et erat lux hominum. And what we did for the class this week was we took turns rolling our fun dice, or die, I guess it's just one, and it tell us how to do it. So we would roll, we have options like sing it while you're hopping. We have one that is clap while you say it. We have one balancing on one foot. So we had all different kinds of things, and we did this many, many times, however the dice told us to. And that's how we did Latin. For a timeline, we have Napoleon, this is an NaSl, Napoleon crowned emperor, the sign for emperor that we use most of the year, of France. France, you take an ASLF and you turn it around. And then we have the liberation. So we take our hands like this, and liberation, you lift them up. So liberation of ASLS and bring it down to the south. So liberation of South America. And then we have the War of 1812. This is the sign for bombs. So this is what we do here. So the War of 1812. And then we have the Missouri Compromise. This is the sign for compromise. We're meeting in the middle, right? So the Missouri Compromise. And then we have immigrants flock to America. And then we have the Monroe Doctrine. So we take our hands like this and we move them apart. So the Monroe Doctrine. And then the Romantic period of the arts. So that was a time of lots of drama in the arts. So we're going to take our face like to up. So up. And that is our timeline. For geography, we're learning the rivers. And so we had some goldfish this week that we used to go up and down our rivers in class. But first, what we did, as always, was we identified where each of the rivers were. So let's take a look at this. Today we are learning the East Rivers. And so we have the St. Lawrence River here. And then we have the Ohio River here. Over here is the Mississippi River in pink. Then the Missouri River over here in blue. And then down here is the Arkansas River. And so first we go about identifying which rivers we're looking at, and then we say them as a class. So we'll highlight this and we'll say the St. Lawrence River, we'll highlight it with our dry erase, and then we'll go to the next one. And then as we go to each one, we review how many we have so far. And then at the end, with our fishies, we took them swimming in the river, and each kid picked one river that they could use to slide their fish down the river, and they would identify to the whole class which river that was. And that is how we did our rivers. Okay, last but not least, we have science. And for science, we're on week 2 of learning the elements. So this is the second 4 elements in the periodic table by number, element, symbol, and mass. And they are 5 boron, B11. So the number, the element, the symbol, and the mass is down here. Then we have 6 carbon, C12. 7 nitrogen, N14. And last, 8 oxygen, O16. And we are singing this to the tune of I'm in the Lord's Army, and it sounds like this. What are the second 4 elements in the periodic table by number, element, symbol, and by mass? 5 boron, B11. 6 carbon, C12. 7 nitrogen, N14. 8 oxygen, O16. Okay, so one more time. What are the second 4 elements in the periodic table by number, element, symbol, and by mass? 5 boron, B11. 6 carbon, C12. 7 nitrogen, N14. 8 oxygen, O16. And that is our science. And I think that wraps up everything for week 16. If you have any questions, let me know. Otherwise, I hope this is helpful, and we'll see you next week. Bye.